Let's do math.
And we're recording. I've touched the button. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. So I was listening to a Johnny Carson podcast. You're familiar with Johnny Carson, right?
Johnny Carson a lot, yeah.
So I love this Carson podcast where this kid, he's a kid, he's a comic, nobody knows him.
Right.
But about 3 years ago, he decided he's going to do a podcast that's dedicated to anybody that's ever been on the Johnny Carson show.
That's brilliant.
It really is brilliant. I mean, the audience is getting older and older, but
yes.
I mean, if you were a writer on the show, you were a producer, you sold tickets, you saw Johnny get into his car, anybody that had anything to do with Johnny Carson, and then occasionally he gets a couple of good big gets. He'll get somebody. He'll get performers, comedians, people on the show.
How did you find this?
It's interesting. I mean, I've been listening on and off for a while. I think I started when he started. Mark Malkoff, is the guy's name, and so he has Carson-like music. That's why I thought about the Johnny Carson, because he can't take that riff, so he has kind of a big band sound. And in the beginning, it hurts your ears to hear it because it's not the Carson theme.
Yeah.
And then 3 years later, it's like, oh, I like that song. I like that opening.
That's the way to, you know what? Between you and I, we have enough musician friends, and you play music. Certainly, we could just come up with our own, right?
Something. I've told the girls. I said my girls play the piano. You know that. I said you girls could make maybe a tiny living, just doing music for podcasts, because you can't really use somebody's theme. You're violating ASCAP and BMI without paying rights.
That's smart. That's a really smart concept. So I'm Melinda McKinsey.
I'm Tom Wise. Thanks for joining us. We're unpacking some shit.
That's right. Let's unpack it, Tom.
Can I say something? So it's Mark Malkoff. He's the host of that show, the Carson podcast, which I recommend.
Okay.
But I think he's made a huge mistake.
Why?
So they had some crazy characters on the Carson show. The half-drunk writers, Pat, what's his name, is always drunk and pulling down his pants and streaking. And, they'd go to parties. They have outrageous things, that they would do. And so Malkoff would ask somebody, hey, you got any crazy stories? And the guy would start a story. And then Malkoff, he edits out all the cussing. He edits out all the nonsense, because he thinks it's a podcast for kids. If you're not 50, you don't even know who the hell Carson is.
No. And kids' attention span is so short with the way technology is. No one is sitting and listening to old-timey shows like that.
Yeah. And if you don't capture the guy's story right there and then, no one's ever going to capture it. This guy's a stagehand. He's 83 years old. He wants to tell a crazy story about one of the writers. Oh, no, keep it clean. For what reason?
That's too bad. Well, I hope you told him how he can do his podcast better. We love stuff like that.
I mean, he's had Carl Reiner on there.
Nice.
He's had Mel Brooks on there. I mean, so he's getting some good names.
Does he have a big following?
I don't know. He's always rattling his can for money, though.
Okay.
Out of cash. I can't. I'm thinking, where's the money go? He's always saying he needs it for production. Well, it's you and a phone call.
Nice try there, buddy.
But he does do some in-person things, which is nice. So that means he's got to travel and whatever.
Super cool. Super cool. Well, what do you want to talk about today? You want to talk about your DMV story?
I don't want to dominate the thing. So my birthday's in July. I got my tag things in June. I filled them all out online, submitted them all. I got the girl's car, Tommy's car, my trailer, tag, all set. So I get to the end of July, or maybe a week or two into August, and I was putting something in my car. I'm saying, wait a minute, I never got a tag. I never updated my tag. And I'm saying, was it on the registration? Because usually it's all in there together. Yeah. Because I think at the time I said, oh, I must have got a 2-year tag, so I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
So I looked at it. Oh, no, it's expired. It's been expired for a couple of weeks. So I go online and I try to renew it online. No, you got to come in. You're late. Yeah. And then it's like, please just don't walk up. You've got to make an appointment. So the earliest appointment was today, 2 weeks later, September 2nd. So I'm there at 10 o'clock. I get in, and there's a bunch of people that don't have appointments. They're in line. It's like,
Of
what's
course.
going
Yeah.
on? Long story short, I go in, and rather than issue me my new tags,
Yes.
oh, Mr. Wise, you've got some outstanding traffic tickets.
It was a trick. They didn't renew it so you would come in. Those bastards.
Trap.
Those bastards. How much? How much?
Oh, they wouldn't tell me. I couldn't. There's no settling the score there. I've got more business to do. I've got to, because ever since they made the tollway, just we'll bill you later. And then I tried to get on the system and pay my tolls. No,
Yeah.
they weren't having it. They're kicking out my credit card.
Why?
Kick out. They wouldn't take my money.
So how long did you have to wait with your appointment before you found out this information?
It wasn't bad. You had to wait outside. Everybody's masked up. Nobody's allowed inside until they have a chair for you, which is six feet out. So this was not the first day they're doing this. They've got everybody coming in. You don't get to come in and stand around. You got to get in and get a chair. So essentially, I got there around 10, waited to about 6-7 minutes to get in. It's not bad. And
Okay.
then I noticed, I sat down, the place was packed, 30
Right.
people, all chairs spread out. I was set down not even 90 seconds before my number got called. I got pushed to the top because I had an appointment.
Right.
I go,
Okay.
isn't that brilliant? But then 7 minutes into that transaction, I got I probably owe $22.
And so now you have to go to the courthouse to deal with it?
No, I've got to pay something online, I'm sure.
Oh, good Lord. I hate all that stuff. Last December, before we knew about this pandemic, Alex and I went to the DMV in the city because
Or
we were,
most of us knew. I knew it already, okay?
well, before everybody but you knew.
Me
So
and
we
Bill
were at a
Gates
very,
were concocting a little.
in New York, it's just always crowded. Wherever you go, everything's crowded, and that's fine. So we went to the DMV together. That way we can entertain each other. We're hanging out. And so, because my passport was getting ready to expire, lots to do. And in New York, you have to have solid proof, man. You have to have like your firstborn. They've got to take your blood. Like it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. So I was frantically making sure I had everything with me, right? Because I didn't want to waste my time. So you go in one line to get permission to go into the second line to get permission to wait. So from the time we walked in the door to the time we walked out with we got the what's it called, the real ID, where you get the special sticker. So right, because I wanted all this stuff. Guess how many hours?
Hours?
Hours.
Wow. I'm telling you, my experience at the DMV has been good, frankly, over the
Yes.
years, has been good. The one here in Pinellas County, if I'm there 22 minutes, it's a long time.
Okay. Well, I understand. We're in the city. We're in Manhattan. We tried to go midday, thinking. We learned later go first thing in the morning, but of course, we didn't know. So guess how many hours? We got
Wow.
everything we wanted, but
2
guess how many?
hours? 2? 4? No way more than 4 hours. You can't spend a half a day.
Come on.
5 hours max, or whatever your name is.
Come on.
6 hours?
6 hours. And I'll tell you why it was 6 hours, because I had many questions when I finally was to a person, because we both separately had to renew our driver's license, and you had to have the special papers, and we both had the same with the address, so we had to keep running back and forth. So I said, please tell me so I never do this again, because the first time I got my license here in New York, it took a couple hours, but I was like, New York.
Hours.
Do you know how many people live here?
I know, but
Here's why. We did not know before we went in, there was a new law mandated for immigrants. If they wanted to get their personal ID, they had to get it before the end of December. So all the people that wanted to get their real IDs, and that's what added so many more hours. Now, if they could have maybe separated that, hey, immigrants, new IDs, I'm all for that. People that just want to get their driver's, like, no.
Well, that's what they do in Pinellas County. You walk in with a quick in and out, they get you right to the head of the line. They give you, there's like A, B, C, D, E, F, and then your number, right? So if you're going to do some sort of title thing and you're going to, declare your mother dead and all this other stuff, that's a whole nother, long line over here, short in and out over there. So, yeah.
So no, not happening. And now with the pandemic,
Well, that's that Democratic governor and mayor you've got.
I don't like De Blasio. I do like Cuomo. But now I heard if you are trying to sell a vehicle or buy a vehicle, if you don't do it through a dealership, you can't do it. They're not transferring titles for individuals, only for dealerships. Now, is that legal? Is that allowed? I don't know, because less people are working, blah, 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 blah. So,
Wow. Can I tell you something? I saw something sad.
oh no. All right.
So I ended up, so my number was L138. So I got in there and I got the bad news, and they said, we're going to keep this number, go back, and then you can pay the fine. Or I think they think that there was something else I was doing wrong. I needed to straighten out.
Do you
I think
keep
there was,
looking at your number? Do you just keep going L138,
well, yeah.
L138?
So then I go back and I get a chair, right?
Yeah.
And on the board, it says, it's got like 5 numbers already listed, and it's got L138 number 1. Now they haven't announced it, but I'm in the batter's circle. I'm on. I think I'm on deck. I'm saying, did they announce that, or am I on deck? There weren't any instructions. They didn't say, don't leave until your number is number 1 and you've been announced. They don't say that. It's a simple sign. You can put it on the TV set. We're not here every day like you are. But anyway,
Right.
I see my number 138 and number 1. So I get up. I start walking to number 1, and I see, oh, there's somebody there at number 1. So, all right. So I'm one of the few people standing, but I'm against the wall trying to give everybody a bunch of space. And I see this older woman standing behind this other kid sitting in a chair. I go, oh, the poor thing. And, you know, and so 6 minutes of standing, the kid gets up and then indicates to the old woman that she should sit down. Like, but there's a relationship here. This isn't just some kid and some old woman. This is his mom or his grandmother or something. And I'm like, that fat ass was sitting in that chair while this 70-year-old woman was standing. It's like, gosh, dang it. Would you ever have let your mom or your grandmother stand while you were sitting?
That's so frustrating. And it's not, I sometimes here on the subways, you'll see both sides. You'll see people graciously get up when they see a mom with a little kid or a pregnant lady, but then you'll also see the pregnant lady comes on and the guys look at her and then they're just like, I don't. Yeah, you see both sides of it. But, I guess humanity isn't always what you imagine it's going to be. Who knows what that story is? Maybe he has back issues. Maybe I'm not saying it's right, but we don't know the story. I'm sure he's probably a dick and he's spoiled, and
there you go.
yeah.
It was sad. It was sad.
I hate seeing that. Well, what are your topics? Let's talk about something fun and interesting.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
Let's do it.
Oh, by the way, speaking of podcasts, let's talk about Sets. SETS is a new podcast that I'm following. It's comics breaking down their sets. It's very interesting.
Ooh, that does sound good.
Mine are exclamation point.
Okay.
Biggest breaks and old-fashioned dating.
Oh, which one's the sexiest one?
Well, the dating one would be talking about men and women.
Let's do that. Let's do old-fashioned.
What about your list?
Oh, my list is toot your own horn. I will make us talk about that. I've mentioned it 3 times. Toot your own horn. Saying goodbye.
Ooh.
And behind the scenes, because of course I have dirt on so many people. And so that's what I'm going to focus on. So let's talk about old-fashioned dating.
Yeah, well, I occasionally see women on Facebook post, where's old-fashioned dating? Why can't we get back to, what's that?
What does that mean, old-fashioned dating?
Well, shall I give my definition or should you give yours?
No, I want to know, what do you see when you read that? What does that tell you? I don't know. What's old-fashioned?
Old-fashioned dating is a man picks a woman up. He's carrying roses. He holds the door open for her. He runs around and helps her out of the car. He walks on the outside towards the street while she walks on the inside, and her purse is on the building side. I'm just describing it. We get to the restaurant. I open the door. She walks in. I check the reservation. We sit. I lead. Then if the waiter doesn't open a chair, I open a chair. She sits down. I sit. And then when she gets up to go to the powder room, I get up and stand up while she leaves, and I stand up when she comes back. I'm also, there's not even a question about me picking up the check. That's happening. And then we do the reverse leaving. I drive her home. I walk her to the door, and I make sure she gets home safely.
Is that really what they mean? Because that is so outdated and unnecessary.
I mean, that's what I would think old-fashioned dating would be.
Okay, so if I were to say as a woman, oh, why can't we have some old-fashioned dating? Here's what I would mean by that.
Okay. Did you like my scenario or not?
I believe you. Yeah, I believe you. I don't like it.
Oh.
I think it's too one-sided and unfair in today's world. I don't know. I mean, both parties have to agree to it. I don't want all that. I want mutual respect. I get that. But for me, old-fashioned dating would be woo me a little before we date. Woo me. Draw me in, get my attention. To me, that's old-fashioned dating.
Well, define wooing, like calling or texting or
Yeah, sorry.
or sending a candygram or what?
Any kind of way other than just texting me all the time. I feel like texting is lazy and easy, and that's not a special effort.
I try to text, what are you wearing? What are you doing now? Are you in bed? Those are
Wooing. I think wooing is old fashioned, but that's just me.
Well, define wooing. So wooing is like, okay, what's a man do to woo you today? What would he do? Like knock on, put a package on your, so you wake up to go get the paper and, oh, look, there's a parcel with a ribbon on it.
Well, I would feel stalked. I wouldn't feel wooed.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, so to me, wooing would be spending a concentrated effort on focusing on me and knowing things about me.
Okay,
so
give me a for whatever.
Call me on the phone. We have a conversation about something. I mention a museum or something. So then the next conversation would be, you mentioned the Metropolitan Museum. What do you think about? And then have a plan. Like, to me, wooing
They've
is
got
like
an exhibit for Tutankhamun. I purchased tickets for Thursday.
I'm telling you, men don't understand how easy it is. That seems like a small amount, and it really is. But for a woman, it's big because men don't do that stuff. They just don't invest. They're very lazy, or at least the ones I've dated. Lazy, sloppy, whatever. Now, I don't want to be stalked.
Are those two of the seven dwarves?
Lazy and sloppy. I've dated them all. Yeah, that would be lovely. I think wooing is old-fashioned because I just don't see it or hear it. None of my girlfriends talk about it. They get excited if a guy texts them back. Really? That's special?
So how do you compare, like, what would be your scenario for a date today? I've described my scenario of old-fashioned dating. How do you see dating today?
So my dream world, my Melinda bubble world would be, I'm out somewhere or someone met me through somebody else. It's not an online dating. It's I've seen you, or my friend, I've met you through my friend. And
organically.
Yes, organically. Then they reach out to the friend and say, hey, is it okay? And kind of checks with me to see, is it okay if I get your number? That way there's an approval process, and it's not just, hi, this is Tim, right? So you reach out to me and then you say, hey, I would like to call you. Are you good with calling? I want a phone call. I don't want you to text me all the time. Anybody can text. Let's have a phone call. And I know, wow, already, what a huge fucking investment. I'm so aggressive.
I like the phone call. My idea, by the way. Go on.
Thank you. And then, we find out what kind of interests we have, real interests. I've also dated men that have lied and agreed with my interests, and they weren't their interests. And I found out later.
They don't like yoga and apple picking?
First of all, I never mentioned either of those.
Oh.
I even mentioned to my friends, I wanted to start a yoga cocktail hour because I don't do yoga. So we'll just really put on the clothes and just drink and talk.
I love it.
I'm not a yoga person, and I've never done the picking apples thing. I think it's cute, but I don't do it. So if we can find some similar interests, or if he has an interest that I find fascinating that I've never participated in, I'm open to that too. Let's have a conversation. I really like this kind of stuff. I have to connect with you here before. It's easy to have sex with somebody. You can have sex with anybody, but like, connect with me here.
Is that a new rule? What the hell?
Women can. We can have sex with anybody because it doesn't mean anything. If you want to have meaningful sex,
I
then
know, but
it's
you could have a sex with anybody, but you couldn't have sex with any specific one.
right. To
You're
have
not having, yeah, Alec Baldwin, you know.
right. To have meaningful sex, I mean, that's a different story. So then we have this mutual whatever with each other, and then when we go out, of course, if you want to open the door, cool. It's not expected. I would never stand in front of a door and go, what the fuck? You know what I mean? I have been on dates where I started to reach for the door and the guy's like, let me get that. I thought that was sweet.
Yeah.
Totally sweet. Absolutely sweet. But don't overdo it. I've also been out with guys that do everything and it really freaks me out. Like,
You're not getting anything. Stop trying so hard.
yeah. And so then if we would spend some time doing something interesting and having a dialogue so I can get to know the person, to me, that's a dream scenario of starting to establish a relationship, because I'm not looking for a one night stand anymore. I'm looking for a relationship.
Oh, now you change. Hey, I have a question. That maybe I really don't have an answer for this.
Okay.
All right. So I've laid out my 10-point plan for old-fashioned dating, or what I consider old-fashioned dating, right?
Yes.
From a man's perspective.
Yes.
From a woman's perspective, what's required of her? I'm required to open the doors, bring,
right.
Chocolates, walk in a certain way, blah, 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 blah. So what's the balance point of what does the man get from that? What's efforts are required by a woman from old-fashioned dating?
That's a great question. I think if we're going along those same lines, I would say for the female, you would have to be a little coy, a little like come and chase me. You would have to be fully made up. You would have to kind of cater to the man's whims as far as where the topic goes, where you want to have dinner, because he's in charge, right? You'd have to kind of cater to that, maybe be more flattering towards him, very like, oh, you opened the door. That's so lovely. Thank you so much. Very, I think,
No, I get it. That's an interesting.
yeah.
I never thought about it that way, but yes. So that was her part in that play is
Yeah.
to defer to him. Maybe he's going to select the wine. He's going to select what the meal might even be. He's going to lead the conversation. That's an interesting point, because I'm going to guess that the woman that suggested she wanted old-fashioned dating wasn't willing to play that part of the equation.
No. I think you're absolutely right. I think she's throwing it all on the guy, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I want to be catered to, and I still want to do what I want to do.
Right. Like, you do all this stuff, but I'm going to be loud and opinionated and tell you how I feel about things. And then I'm going to judge you if you don't meet my standards, which is today's dating world, quite honestly. I mean, how do you know? How do you know?
It's very interesting. I try to be,
What makes you decide when you're meeting someone that, hey, this might be something? Is there something that occurs during a date that where you're like, wow, I think I'm going to invest?
It does come down to the brain. I mean, of course, everybody likes attractive people. Of course.
Yeah.
We're all built that way, but especially maybe as I'm older, it's like, all right, that's nice. As long as you're not,
It's nice. It says
but,
something about you if you take care of your body. It says
exactly.
something about you.
Of course, it's how you see the world and how you see yourself in the world. But I'm telling you, if a woman could make me laugh or think about something in a different way, that draws me in. That's for sure.
Yes. If a guy can make me laugh, and I will admit, I will sometimes on dates laugh more than I should to try to be kind.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not, I don't know if it's not fair, but I don't want to be uncomfortable. I've done that before where I'm like, why are you doing that? That wasn't even funny, but I'm trying to be all like, oh,
Yeah, try to be like a soft audience.
Yeah.
Plus, he might be throwing out some B material and just trying to lighten the mood, and okay, I'll respond by laughing, and maybe we'll get to maybe we can break the ice a little bit.
If we're investing at this point, let's be kind to each other at the very least, right? Yeah, have you ever been out with somebody and they just weren't nice at all? They were just kind of like abrasive and not cool.
It was classic. I went out with this stunning woman, black dress, the whole 9 yards. We go out to a restaurant, and it's like right out of a "Don't Do It" manual. She's rude to the waiter. It's like, really?
Oh,
you're gonna be rude to the waiter? I mean, haven't you ever seen anybody comment on anything about dating and rude to the waiter is the number one
What
don't.
happened? What happened?
Oh, it's like, something wasn't, they weren't fast enough, or I forget what the specific detail was, but it was registered. Rude to the waiter. We're done.
That's a shame.
Yeah, no, usually it's a man's move where they're rude to the waiter to show off to
Oh,
his date that he's large and in charge.
yeah, that's not a good thing. I went out with a guy who was a pilot, which I thought would be very exciting and work out very well for me. And at the end of the date, it seemed fine. It was okay. But then at the end of the date, he literally asked me to go skinny dipping. And I thought he was joking, so I'm laughing. That's hilarious. I just met you a couple hours ago like we had talked through Match. We're on this date, and he really truly wanted to go skinny dipping. And I said, what part of me gave you the impression and here's what he said. Oh, it's okay if you don't want to. I just thought I'd try. I was like, okay, well,
The trouble is when you shoot that shot, you've
gross.
revealed your inner self. You've told your date, like, I've got a lot of women over here. I don't see you as being special. I'm going to try this kind of rude, crude, thing that I would never do if I found you to be precious. And I worked hard to meet you, and I don't think I could ever meet anybody like you.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna just say this, crazy. I'm just gonna be rude.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. I think sometimes for me as a woman, like you were talking about earlier about old fashioned dating, I think because I am an extrovert and I'm willing to try things, I do give the wrong impression to a lot of men thinking she'll do anything.
Right.
She's
Right.
crazy. But I won't.
Well, I think that the woman has to introduce some sort of sex talk first.
You would think. Yeah.
I mean, unless you're 6 weeks in, it's like, all right, this thing's gonna
Well,
blow up
that's
unless we talk about
different.
sex. But I'm talking about as a man, the play is sit on your hands in that department.
We
And
all know you want to have sex
right.
with us.
So just wait for her to say something or not, or whatever, or just because if you wait long enough, if a woman's interested, she'll say something. Not let's have sex, but like, make some sort of allusion to the conversation that we can now
Yes.
start talking about that.
Yeah. You would be so surprised, Tom, by how many men right off the bat will not only start complaining about their ex on the first date, but also talk about their sex life. And it's shocking because clearly you don't want to spend time with me because I've lost all interest in you. If this is how you start, I don't want to spend time with a complaining jerk who fusses about his ex because it takes two to break up a relationship. I'm sure you participate in that as well. So a lot of guys will do it, Tom. I mean, how many minutes into your date do you start talking about your ex like, oh, she was crazy?
I can't remember the last time I talked about my ex, unless it's
Right.
it's something positive. Oh, by the way, I usually get it out of the way. By the way, I've got a decent relationship with my ex. If that might be a problem, we may want to talk about that now.
Right. Yeah.
Because some people just don't want you to have a good relationship with the ex.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know what? Dating's hard for everybody. I don't know anybody that's like, oh, this is smooth. This is easy because you're being vulnerable. And for me, I think my experience personally as a woman has been men really struggle with being vulnerable and putting themselves out. And I think when they're with a woman who behaves confidently, which I don't know that I'm confident in my ability to date, but I'm confident in who I am. And
Sure.
so I think that could be a little off-putting, and so I think it raises the guy's nervousness level, so then they have to be very confident and, oh, you know what I mean? And so I try to really read the room, and I try to be very like, oh, and so tell me about you. And if it gets too much on me, I'll spin it back and go, well, did you ever, so it's like a thing. And I'm not saying
Absolutely.
I'm not the perfect date by any means. I've not dated a ton. I've dated a lot, but
More of a
I
volume thing.
I feel like there's a way. If you're going to invest your time, invest it well.
I concur. Absolutely, I concur.
So,
Did you tell me- so anyways, go ahead. What's the
no,
wrap up on that?
did you ever do the old fashioned dating? Did you
Well,
try?
I pretty much date the way I described, except for women
Yeah.
don't want you to pick them up at the house anymore.
Yeah, that's scary. We
There you
don't
go.
really
And I
like.
respect that. I would offer and I would do that if that's what she would want, but I don't even offer it anymore because I know they just want to meet. So let's just let's just come up with a place where we can meet and you could disappear into the dark if you want. Yeah, it would be crazy for every woman to know, every guy to know where every woman lives. Well, fine, I can pick you up. They're like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. And isn't that unfortunate? Because are you afraid if women know where you live?
I am not. And it's interesting. It's only been the last 7 or 8 years that I've even started seeing life from a woman's perspective. And
Yeah.
it's sad. And it's like, oh, they really are nervous. And they for cause, for reason, because guys
Yeah.
can be idiots.
Yeah. Is at any moment, you can overpower us and
Yeah.
harm us. And unfortunately, there's a history of that. And if we give the wrong impression, then, and if a man is overly sexual, then there's all that confusion too, right? Of like,
So what happens if I pick you up on a date, we go
yes,
somewhere, and I get too sexual? Now what do you do? I mean, if I picked you up and you're 23 minutes from home or whatever it was, it'd be
right,
a nightmare scenario.
right. And
And
speaking of
mom,
being vulnerable, yeah, that's
and
scary.
the old mom gave you a quarter so you can make a phone call. Remember
I'm
that
telling
when you were a teenager? There, just in case you need a call,
you,
here's a quarter. Good
no,
luck.
and you know this from having daughters. Speak to any woman, by the time they're a teenager, any woman that you know has been harassed sexually in one form or another. I think the world is changing and people are more aware of it. I think it was that unspoken thing of like, boys are boys, come on, yeah, it's real. It's a real thing. I'm so appreciative of being an older. When I was younger, I had no idea how powerful our sexuality was for men. Like I really didn't know. And I had several circumstances where boys pushed too far too fast. I had one guy take me out for a date. I thought it was a date. I was so excited. He was 2 years older than me. I lived out in the country. He picked me up because we all knew where everybody lived. We were going to go somewhere in town.
Was
He
this
goes,
Hawaii?
no, this was in Indiana. I graduated high school in Indiana. And that's where my parents are from. He goes to a country road. Well, he just picked me up. He goes to a country road and pulls over and just comes over and starts trying to make out with me. And here I am. I was like 16. I was so excited to go out with this senior
Wow.
boy who knew who I was, oh my gosh, I was so excited. And I was horrified.
That's horrible.
And so I pushed him off. He was mad.
Is that the new term for it?
What?
You pushed him off?
Yeah, that's the new term. I pushed him off and he was mad and he took me home.
That's insane. See,
But I think that was in the like late 70s, early 80s. And I think a lot, he was popular football player. You know what I mean? I think those boys got away with stuff like that. And here's the thing. Did I report it? I didn't even tell my friends. I was I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. So I never told anybody. I told my cousin later because he was friends with him and he was horrified, but I was too embarrassed to tell anybody. And from that point on, we acted like we didn't even know each other.
Wow.
That's a boy thing. I bet if you ask a lot of boys, especially the ones who were popular, who had a lot of power, they really tried to take advantage. Not all of them. It's not a blanket statement, but I will say from my experience personally, that has been the way it was. You talk to those shy boys, those little boys that don't get a lot of attention, sweet, kind, loving. They don't feel the need to pressure you or harm you. So when all these jocks complain and go, why is she dating him? That's why we really want to be respected. We want to be loved and respected. We know that you want to have sex with us. That is not new information.
But I'm good at the sex.
Oh, but see, you're good. So I should probably just keep
Just
to
put
that.
that in your Rolodex. So let's do what was your toot your own horn?
Toot your own horn.
Because we're running late.
Darn it. Well, we can do it next time so I can talk about it.
Well,
okay. How much time do we have? Are we done?
Well, we've done 34 minutes.
Okay, well, I'll just do it real quick. Toot your own horn. I was raised in an environment because I was a girl to keep it down. Don't draw attention to yourself. Be nice. My mom's mantra was be nice. That was her whole survival technique, was be nice. And so as I got older and I worked in the field of entertainment, my mom's advice was don't be a braggy pants. Don't be, I had to learn on my own how important it was to toot my own horn, because that's when I started getting paid more. That's when I started getting respected. And I think there's a fine line in what is tooting your own horn, because we all know those braggarts. No one likes the braggarts, the name droppers, the I've done this. As a female, it's super hard because I could do the same thing as a man in my category and they would think the guy is cool, but I'm bragging because I'm a lady.
You know what? Nobody gets to say anything about them unless they're asked. And if they do, man or woman, that's somewhat bragging.
It's a fine line though,
You
don't you
can't
think?
you can't introduce information out of context. Otherwise, people are going to judge you negatively, men and women.
That's a perfect way of putting it. And I know that, like for my mom, because she doesn't really understand my job, she wants me to go in and clock in somewhere every day. Like, could you just get a stable life and go clock in? So when I would say, oh, I met so and so, or, this, she'd say, now, you just need to settle it down because you don't need to be too, out there in the world. Don't be telling people how great you are. And I was like, I'm telling you, I'm just telling you. But it's the environment I was raised in. And a lot of females I've talked to feel the same way. We have to be super careful how we engage. And I've learned even with this job, I have to keep reminding them of what I've done. So they go, oh yeah, oh yeah. Because if I don't remind them, they kind of forget what.
Well, in context, you need to do that. It's funny because I was just thinking about working on my webpage as being a guest for HSN.
Yeah.
So there, I've got to toot my own horn because no one's just going to call me out of the blue. So
Right.
I've got to put up a page, and so people are looking for help guesting at HSN.
Yeah.
Yeah, my resume would be pretty, impressive. But
Right.
unless I put it out there, no one's going to know it.
Right.
Toot my
I
own
think
horn.
do it. It's important to toot your own horn. So I think that's something that should be done. And I've talked about my niece about this with family legacies. And I told her, I said, she's very creative and innovative. She's done so many fantastic things in her career, but she doesn't toot her own horn. So before the first day of school this year, I bought her a little necklace with a horn on it so she can wear it to remind herself. It's very important to toot
Ooh.
your own horn.
Plus, may I give a bonus to that? When somebody sees it, they might say, "What's that horn about?" Oh, that's me. My aunt gave me this so I could talk about my ice skating championships or whatever that would be, right?
Exactly. It's important to remember the good stuff that you've done because it does have value.
Yeah.
And I think as a female, we're always like, oh no, it's okay, not. So it took me a long time to learn that. For a long time, I was like, no, I'm fine. And now I'm like,
Amen.
I'm a
Amen,
winner.
sister. Amen, sister. I
So
concur.
that's tooting your own horn.
And Jay was very impressed with you, by the way.
Is
My
this
boy
where
Jay.
is this where I act surprised?
Me?
What?
No, that was fun. That was a great show last time.
He was hilarious and lovely, and I can see why he does what he does. He's absolutely perfect for it. And I did want to mention Chuck. I really enjoyed our show with Chuck. I've shared our Chuck story with so many people about what a cool guy he was, and I would totally hang out with him. And I love the fact that he listens to our show. It means a lot.
We got a lot of positive feedback about Chuck as well. Absolutely. A lot of guys say,
Love,
"Oh, yeah, that's great. We would love to hear about Chuck." Yep. That
see?
was nice. Yeah. So, hey, if
Yeah.
you want to be a guest, let me know. We'll squeeze you in for, we're going to say 5. Sometimes it might go a little bit longer, but,
Yes,
come on in and have some fun.
absolutely.
I gave today a rest. I was going to bring in Matt or Pat. I said, you know what? Melinda and I haven't done a show by ourselves for a week. So here we go.
Oh, thank you, Tom.
Here's a tip of the day. Can I give a tip of the day?
Yes.
Pay your parking tickets
That's a good one.
or they're going to cancel your driver's license. All right. My name's Tom Wise.
I'm Melinda McKinsey. Thanks for unpacking some shit with us today.
All right, and then we'll see you Friday at around release the show about 6:00 or so.
Yeah.
The good Lord willing and the creek don't rise, of course.
What he said.
All right, bye.